Welcome back. Let's discuss the economy now. Nigeria is in a more fragile position than before the late 2021 global oil price boom. That's according to the World Bank. In its new report, the global financial institutions revealed that Nigeria has spent nearly all the revenues it earned in 2022 servicing its debts, adding that the low revenue and rising interest rate payments now have left Africa's largest economy with almost no money after paying interest on debt. This has led to persistent fiscal deficits that are partly funded with costly central bank loans and a rising public debt stock to gross domestic product ratio of 38%, just below the 40% self-imposed limit set by the government. Now, in the absence of a significant boost in oil revenues and tax reforms, the World Bank forecasts Nigeria's fiscal deficit will remain above 5% of GDP until 2025. The organization says one important step the government can take to ease fiscal pressure is to scrap the expensive and controversial petrol subsidy, which cost 2.3% of GDP in 2022, up from 0.7% the year prior. The government has set June this year as the date for the complete removal of subsidy. Now, whether it will be able to brave all the odds and likely political backlash and remove the subsidy remains to be seen. Meanwhile, President-elect Bola Tinubu, who will take over from outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari on May the 29th, has pledged to end the subsidy that the Finance Ministry expects to drain about $7.2 billion from the state finances in the first 6 months of this year. Joining me now to take a deeper look at this issue, I have financial expert Obin Iruakba, who joins us, of course, from Abuja. Also joining us from Port Harcourt is Akintunde Ogunshola, who's an economist. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Obin, now. Quite a grim picture there painted by the World Bank, but not in any way surprising, because when you look at the debt profile of the country, truth is that we've been spending so much on debt servicing, but now getting to the level of not being able, after servicing the debt, you're left with nothing, then that's something serious, and it shows that the incoming government will definitely face a struggle.
I strongly believe that the incoming government will face a struggle in the first few months. What do you expect? If you have over 96% of your revenue expended in debt servicing, and the present government is thinking about removing oil subsidy, you're going to have a bit of restiveness within the policy, because Labour, for instance, Ben Garson has already threatened that she would not support the removal of subsidy. So the incoming government would really need to sit down and do three things. Stakeholders mapping. Who are the stakeholders in Project Nigeria? Civil society, civil servants, manufacturers, the people in the oil and gas, and just about everyone, to understand why it may be necessary to remove the subsidy. You're looking at the budget of 2023 that read expected income borrowing. Time borrowing happened. You're going to have 77 trillion by the end of this budget cycle. So this present government has her work cut out for her. And what I recommend is this government should prepare to have an engagement with just about anybody that needs to be engaged with. The second thing is stakeholders engagement. And then the third thing is stakeholders management. My initial submission is DEJI.
But let me ask you, if the government doesn't take away the subsidy, how is it going to how is it going to survive in the first place?
Say that again. If the government does not...
If the government does not take away the subsidy, and in any case, the current government now had planned that it was going to go by probably May before it leaves office, but obviously with the way things are going, it appears it's going to shift it to the new government. But the question is, if you do not remove the subsidy, I'm just wondering how the government how will the country be able to cope?
Well, maybe the incoming government will continue borrowing like this current government that has borrowed so much. But that's just on a lighter note. I believe that we just have to get the people to line up behind the government before you remove the subsidy. I am a proponent of removal of subsidy. We cannot sustain 6 trillion every year And then there is a suspicion that this so-called subsidy is not transparent. There's so much corruption suspected. And if you consider the porous borders that we have, so you export cheap crude and you import, and then remember that you also have bridging costs from the port into the hinterlands. If you look at Petroleum Equalization Fund that manages the issue of bridging for these oil marketers. Now, PEP is part of the midstream right now. Now, so you're dealing with a lot of corruption, and then by the time you remove subsidy, you're going to have oil per liter sell at about 750 naira per liter, and if it goes to 1,000 naira per liter, the people in the civil servants, the average person on the streets is going to go up in arms. So I believe that the very first thing to do is to engage the people and explain to them that what we actually call subsidy is actually not subsidy. It's hurting the economy. Now, it's only in Abuja and about maybe Lagos and one or two other cities that you sell at 195 naira per liter. Outside here, I was in Rivers State about 2 months ago. It's sold at 320 naira per liter. So it's neither here nor there. A few individuals are the ones benefiting from what is called subsidy. There is corruption. We do not even know how many liters we consume per day. So we need to investigate actually what we call subsidy and explain to the people that outside Abuja and Lagos, and probably maybe Enugu, almost every other city sells at over 280 naira per liter. So who is losing, who is winning? And if you look at diesel, diesel sales now is open to the it's supposed to open market, control of the open market. It sells at over 800 naira per liter. And then manufacturing is still going on. As much as it hurts manufacturers, but they're still finding a way to produce and sell and make some form of profit. So we need to explain these issues around the PMS.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you. Let me go to Akintunde Ogunshola now. Akintunde, beyond the issue of subsidy, which of course the World Bank has actually concentrated on for a very long time now. I mean, even before things got this worse, the World Bank had been advocating the removal of subsidy. But the question is, look, beyond the issue of subsidy, what else can the federal government or can the government do in terms of shoring up government revenue? Because the truth is that the revenue is just not there. And subsidies certainly not the only means of saving revenue for the government. What else do you think we need to do at this time, especially when you consider the fact that, look, what we are generating now, as the World Bank clearly stated, we're spending in paying, in servicing our debts?
Actually, yes, that's the fact. The revenue is not yet there, but I think compared with the previous period, 2020, 2021, 2022, I believe our revenue has started, and that's why the IMF just also recently projected that Nigeria economy is going by 3.2% in 2023, whereas at the end of 2022 it was projected by 2.8%. One thing that has made the IMF to also project a growth in our economy in 2020 is that our oil sales now has gone up, it has improved. Nigeria has been producing per day constantly at 1.6 to 1.7 million barrels per day, and the price has also been up. So it's expected that Nigeria's revenue is also going to go up. That's why the IMF projected that Nigeria's economy will grow by 3.2% in 2023. And apart from relying on oil, we've been talking about diversification of the economy. I think what the incoming government needs to, go to the drawing table for is to also look into how to diversify the economy, look at how to improve the aviation sector. This government promised to give us Nigeria Air before they leave government in May, but it's looking like it's not going to be possible because you just have like 1 month to go. So the incoming government can take over the project, develop the aviation sector, develop the service sector, so that the revenue of the country is going to be boosted and the economy of the country is going to be diversified. If they don't do that, I think the incoming government will still run into revenue shortages and continue to battle with the problems of the low revenue for government, and that's the problem that we have. So if the incoming government can look at how to diversify the economy in other sectors, agriculture is there, we need to ensure food security, the services sector is there, the aviation sector is there, all other sectors need to also be looked into, apart from the oil sector, whereas the oil sector is actually improving because I think from 2023, the oil thieves has actually relented, and we are actually growing in that aspect. Remember, the tax aspect is the fiscal policy aspect of the economy, while the monetary aspect is also going. If both the fiscal policy is being tightened and the monetary aspect is also tightened, I think the citizens will not find it funny because we are in the era of tightening of economy. Interest rate is high. The CBN is continuing to tighten the economy because of high inflation. We're experiencing continuous and steady rise in inflation. So if the government on its fiscal policy path decide to also increase taxes again, I think it's going to be choking for our economy. So for now, it is advisable that we still keep our tax system the way it is for now, pending when the virus of this inflation is a worldwide virus, inflation going up, not only in Africa, even the developed countries are also experiencing the same. So if government increase tax for now, I think it's going to be too choking, but we still need to continue to monitor and ensure that we bring more people into the tax net. That's one way that we can increase our revenue. Let the FIRS continue to do monitoring of taxpayers, ensure that they are paying accurately, and also ensure that those that are not yet captured in the tax net are brought into the tax net. Then our revenue will go up rather than increasing tax rates. It's not the time to actually increase tax rate because we're experiencing high inflation.
Can I get your thoughts on this issue of tax reform, Obinaya? What do you think?
Talking about tax reforms, if you look at the finance bill, we've had to move from 5% to 7.5% of VAT.
Which is still low.
Which is still low compared to other nations. However, you also need to consider the people you're taxing. I like the fact that my co-discussant has mentioned the issue of insecurity, the issue of non-diversification of the economy.
Well, it appears we're having a serious challenge now with connecting to Obinaya, but let me come to you, Akintunde. What do you think? How challenging do you think it will be for the incoming government? How challenging do you think it will be to raise the revenue profile of government now? And do you have any fear that if some drastic action is not taken, we might begin to default default in some of our loans, not being able to pay back?
Yes, it's going to be quite challenging, and it's not going to be easy for them because our debt profile continues to rise. There is no doubt this government has borrowed far beyond where they actually met the debt profile when they came into government in 2015. But it is still not above the limit of borrowing. That's why the World Bank and the IMF is still giving them this loan. But the incoming government is going to be faced with the challenge of paying back this debt and also increasing revenue of the government. The challenge that they have, the way forward for them to resolve this challenge is to look at the other sectors, just like as I was emphasizing. There are so many other sectors in this country that are lying fallow, that we still have revenue leakages. They need to block all the loopholes of our revenue, ensure that our raw materials are nested and being monitored appropriately. Like I'm talking about the mining sector, where we have gold, we have other mineral resources. That mining, we have so much illegal miners in the country. The incoming government need to look into that sector. And just like I said, they also need to look into the aviation sector. Expanding this non-oil sector will also bring about job creation for the teeming youth that actually voted them into power. And that's the way to go for the incoming government. Notwithstanding that the oil path, we are actually on the path of growth, and the oil thieves have been chased away from the fields. Now our oil production is secured. I think, and with the removal of subsidy and the incoming of Dangote refineries, and also ensuring they also need to take a decision as to what happens to the remaining 4 refineries we have in Nigeria, to ensure that they are also producing in order to compete with the Dangote refineries. And I think they are going to be starting on a good note and a good path, instead of rather than where this government started in 2015, where the refineries was not working, the oil subsidy was increasing, and so on. It's going to be challenging, but I think it's surmountable for them if they take the right decisions.
All right. Unfortunately, we couldn't reconnect with Obinaya Uruakwa, and I think that's just where we have to leave it. Thank you very much, Akintunde Ogunshola, economist. Thank you very much for coming on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so very much. Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. Unfortunately, we've not been able to reconnect with Obinaya Uruakwa, but well, we hope to do so some other time. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.